Our first question is from Lucy, and she asks, what is a good strategy I can use to address important issues in her class?
Lucy, classroom meetings are a great tool in using and discussing issues with the class and presenting different various topics to the class as a whole. And your job as a teacher would be to mediate and have an interest in knowledge and background on the subject. Classroom meetings offer a democratic perspective for students, and it is a facilitator for meaningful conversation. Holly?
Another thing that you could think about, Lucy, is that when students in the classroom express their thoughts and feelings openly, they learn to value the opinions and feelings of others. A study was conducted in northeastern United States that showed when students read literature out loud, it helped them resolve some of their personal feelings. They were able to relate to the character in the story that might have been going through a similar situation as them. Teachers in the class found that reading together helped the students bond and open up with one another, and it led to many teachable moments. This could possibly be a technique that you can use in your classroom to help you deal with some of your problem issues. Hope it helps.
We need to talk about the red light in the lunchroom because we've had some issues with kids being a little bit too loud in the lunchroom. Tell me what you remember about the rules that were set forth at the beginning of the year about that red light. Eric?
The red means definitely not talk. Yellow means
Exactly. But are we doing that? No, we're not. And I know some of us have our back turned to the red light, so we can't see it. But the people who can see the red light, what are they supposed to tell me? Tell me what?
give silent signals like point at the light or go like this.
Yeah, point the light or go. So when it's yellow, you need to stop talking and watch for the light. And when it turns green, you can talk. But when it turns red, no talking until the teacher says it.
Our next question comes from Miss Rachel. I'm having a continuous behavioral problem with one of my students, and I'm having a difficult time understanding and finding where I need to start in addressing this issue. Well, Rachel, studies have shown that charting health, psychological, personal, and other factors help understand and determine the source and cause of the behaviors.
A study was also done in Singapore. It took place and found that the first step in dealing with those difficult behaviors is developing a team that can work well together and use problem-solving approaches to help better the student. The team provides support and feedback for the general education teacher. I would advise that you, Rachel, develop a team of professionals that can provide you with good quality advice and support on what you can do to help your student.
Teachers that understand the cause of the behavior are more effective at changing the behaviors. And when teachers help students make a connection between the targeted behavior and their perception of the behavior, they are more likely to curb or change the undesirable behaviors.
My name is Kim Wells, and I'm a first-year teacher at Sachs Elementary School. When I have a student that is really upset about being corrected for a discipline issue, generally I'll give them time to cool off before actually talking to them about the issue. And I will talk to them whenever it is that they calm down. I've yet to have a student, though, that has really had an issue with their behavior where so much that they get so upset and they need a lot of time to cool off. If I were to have a student who is upset to that degree, I would let them take a walk with one of our resource aides, and that seems to be beneficial and helpful in classes where that is necessary.
Our third question is from Betty, and she writes, I'm concerned with how to handle conflict amongst my students. Do you have any suggestions? Well, Betty, the important thing to remember in these types of situations is that students are not always proficient when coping with their emotions, and therefore they need to be taught how to resolve their conflicts with each other.
The younger students are taught conflict resolution skills. They're more profound and more applicable. In a study conducted by Blair in 2008, teenagers that resorted to fighting, drug use, and early dropout were biting, teasing other students when they were 6 years old.
In our school, we have a behavior modification program. It's school-wide, which helps us in dealing with individual conflicts between students, as well as just helping the students themselves learn new choices in how to behave, how to choose which response they were going to have to different conflicts, to different situations, and things like that. Part of which is immediate consequences, good and bad. They get immediate rewards for making good choices, and they get immediate consequences for making bad choices. Part of that is with a merit system. They have to earn merits in doing good behaviors. They lose merits when they make bad choices and do bad behaviors. And so with that, their balance of merits, then they can earn even more rewards from that. And a lot of these students haven't necessarily received the immediate good or bad. And so it gets their attention pretty quick because it is an immediate response to something. It's not something that's put off for later or that they receive something later. They get something immediately. And it gets their attention, it makes them think, and it fairly quickly moves their behavior into an area that's manageable, especially for the classroom. They also, for good academic performances, we give some extra rewards in that area. And that causes them to desire to do well in school. A lot of these children that we have may not have had good experiences in school and things like that before. So any positive reinforcement we can have when they do well, we implement and we use.
Our last question is from Susie, and she says that she has students in her classroom that have behavioral problems but don't necessarily qualify for an FBA. Is there any other strategy that we could suggest? Well, Susie, many schools rely on FBAs to diagnose and resolve problem behaviors, but writing an actual FBA is not always the answer. It would be beneficial to learn about an FBT, which is function-based thinking. This is a way that teachers think and decode problem behaviors and match those behaviors with interventions. FBT and FBAs are very similar, but FBTs are thought to be more user-friendly and don't require all of that paperwork. Hope that helps.
You ready? Right. There are several things that you can do with students who may not necessarily qualify for an FBA or who have not passed off on that functional behavior assessment, but may require some behavioral interventions. Most importantly, I would make sure that your communication with those parents remains strong and constant all year long, whether that's with a behavior notebook or a student planner. Constant communication with parents is key there. And you'll also need to put into place some preferential seating, some peer buddies to help that student stay on task, or depending on what his weakness is or what his behavior or negative behavior is, you may need to set up a reward system for that student so that you're positively reinforcing the good things that they do during the day and not just concentrating on the bad. I would suggest like maybe a marble system where you're dropping a marble in a cup every time the student does something good, and you need to pick out little tiny things throughout the day so that the good outweighs the bad and the student has an opportunity to think that they're good, because so many kids with those behavior needs are just constantly told that they're doing something wrong. So I would first try to redirect those negative behaviors that are drawing attention into something positive.
And thanks to all of you that wrote in to ask Holly and Hannah.
Fall is here, hear the yell, back to school, ring the bell, brand new shoes, walking blues, climb the fence, books and pens, I can tell that we are gonna be friends. I can